Quickly drive me into this. We saw Bashir last week ousted as president. In the same week, we saw Bashir's Minister of Defense taking over as interim leader in the country. By Friday, he was down because the population doesn't want him. They don't want military rule anymore. What is the latest?
Well, yes, everything you said is true, and I think Sudan has managed to make world history in incredible ways by having one leader for 30 years and another leader for approximately 30 hours. At the moment, we have Burhan in power. He's leading up the TMC, the Military Council. However, the mass population, the people, the thousands upon thousands, touching 1 million people that are on the ground right now, are not happy with the outcome. They are insisting upon civilian transition, and they're not moving until we as a people are not moving until we see that our demands are met and that a civilian transitional government is put in place. But I may be alone in this view. When I say alone, I mean myself and a small group of fellow activists. We are focused on resolve right now. We need to know who specifically can take this job, who is willing to take this job, because it's a lot on their heads. There's a lot they'll need to sweep up by way of our former so-called leader. There's a lot of paranoia. There's a lot of suspicion, rightly so. So whoever does take this position will have a lot on their plate. And I certainly hope, as a woman, that women are also sincerely considered within this transition and within a new direction for our country.
Right. Rozan, of course, just to jump into that exact point that you just made, we know that women have actually been the backbone of all of these protests, right? How positioned are they to take on a country that in the first regime before Bashir, it was more of an Islamic rule, and we know that they were looking actually to set up an Islamic Republic of Sudan, which fell off with al-Bashir coming in power. And we know that of course, the Islam, the religion of Islam, does not really put the same spotlight on women as it does on men. So do you, in this particular moment, think that Sudan is actually ready for women rule?
Well, Sudan has played an ancient role when it comes to women in leadership. Sudan is beyond ready for women to take on a position of power. I think that there's a lot of irony ongoing right now because, as you've mentioned, these protests have been ongoing for close to 4 months.
Right.
On top of that, this is a third revolution where the Sudanese people have successfully toppled iron fist dictatorship. Okay?
Right.
So we're not unfamiliar with revolt, and we're also not familiar with women in leadership. Anciently so. There's an image, before I continue, I know that it was difficult to include, but I'm going to try my best to show it to you. This is an image of a Nubian king and a Nubian queen. The queen is holding on to the man.
I can see that clearly.
And I felt it was really important that I share this because anciently so, women have been the spiritual protectors in Sudan. The men have been the physical protectors. And this is exemplified through this image. And it seems that the world is so obsessed with image and are driven by image that I felt it's important that I share that. Because a week ago now, perhaps 8-9 days ago, a picture went viral of one of our fantastic protesters standing on a car and speaking, basically driving positivity into fellow protesters. She was a 22-year-old student, right? Although she is very representative of how women have led this revolt and of how women have led revolt, land, war in the past, it's not reflecting what is happening on the ground. At this moment, during these negotiations between the civilian representation and the military council, there simply isn't enough female representation ongoing right now. So the beauty and femininity and power of this image isn't reflective of what's on the ground. So unfortunately, women are not in the positions of decision-making power when it comes to this transition as strongly as they should be. And that is why I felt it was important that I do this and continue to lend voice, because it's important that we bring some intelligent female synergy to these negotiations and to the future of our country.
And I want to hold you to that, Rozan. Of course, we know that biggest to this agenda, the protesters need an entire overhaul of the NCP regime. But the African Union has given about 15 days, which I don't think you still have 15 days, to see to it that Sudan transitions from military to civilian rule. And of course, which is something that you all want. But there has still been no point where you've been able to, starting from you, to show me who do you look up to as someone that can take on the baton. Because this is a country. It definitely needs someone to carry on and, you know, be the interim leader. So do you perhaps, you know, see a direction where all of this is heading? And do you think in the 15 days that have been given, we will come to a solution in Khartoum?
Yeah, well, first of all, I personally feel that the timeline is a little outrageous in the sense that, you know, we as a people have been oppressed,
right.
You know, by an iron fist for 30 years. And it's not that easy. It doesn't take 50 days to just come up with a solution. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I am one of the individuals that is doing everything in my power to come up with a system of solutions. Because, you know, as much as we have successfully, proudly, defiantly rid of one system, we now must create another, right? And this is where I feel focus must lie amongst the people, amongst those in positions of leadership, both the civilians, the civil society that are involved, the Sudanese Professionals Association, the DFC, and so on and so forth. And that is why I'm encouraging as much as possible in order for us to find this system and establish this system. Right. You know, everyone knows that leader is essentially a head or a face, right? So the fact that al-Bashir is now in jail, as much as that is wonderful news, he is one of many